Chapter 10:25. The huge rabbit eye within the secret forest. Sunlight shone through the leaves, casting patches of light on the ground. A young maiden with leaves still caught in her hair stood up and looked through the jungle to an open space nearby. This should be the world in the secret realm. Ching Han, can you feel what is it that is summoning you? Next to the young maiden stood a beautiful and fair little lady, her facial features delicate and pretty, just like a porcelain doll. So beautiful that it was hard to forget. After entering the secret realm, I could no longer feel anything. Mother, when will we leave this place? I'm a little hungry. Little Ching Han raised her head, staring at Feng Ruching with eyes wide open. Feng Ruching pondered for a moment, then took out a grade 5 spirit herb and threw it to little Ching Han. She herself took out a few pieces of divine spirit fruits and gently took a bite. The juice flowed into her mouth, lingering there for a bit. Compared to other spirit herbs, the divine spirit fruit, although only a grade 1 spirit herb, tasted so good that it caused the spirit beast to lose their minds. Mother, is this divine spirit fruit that delicious? Little Ching Han swallowed the spirit herb that Feng Ruching gave her at one go, then stared at the divine spirit fruit in Feng Ruching's hand with great longing. Brother Fu Chan said that the divine spirit fruit's grade is too low. It's not suitable for us as food. I have never eaten it, but why do all the spirit beasts love the divine spirit fruit so much? To humans, the divine spirit fruit could relieve fatigue, but for the spirit beasts, naturally, they would not need this ability. Therefore, in their eyes, the divine spirit fruit was just a sweet, juicy fruit. Would you like to try? Feng Ruching raised her hand, plucked a divine spirit fruit, and passed it to little Ching Han. Little Ching Han swallowed her saliva, looking troubled. Brother Fu Chan said that they were of noble status. Low-grade spirit herbs were not suitable to be their food. But she really wanted to eat it. Little Ching Han could not resist the temptation of delicious food. She raised her hand and took the divine spirit fruit. Her little mouth took a bite and the juice burst out, stimulating her taste buds. Fragrant and sweet. Yummy. If I had known earlier that the divine spirit fruit was so tasty, I wouldn't have eaten grass on an empty stomach with Brother Fu Chan. Brother Fu Chan said the lowest grade spirit herb that is suitable to be our food has to be at least grade 3. You have already starved for more than 1,000 years and are still so picky about food? She really could not understand what the spirit herb was thinking. Creak, creak. Me for extra chapters. A sound came out from next to Feng Ruching. Feng Ruching turned her head to the side and saw a huge stout rabbit. Yes, this rabbit was very stout, so tall that it almost reached her waist. Little Ching Han's eyes were sparkling. She swallowed another mouthful of saliva, but still, she drooled. What am I supposed to do? I really want to eat it. How to make barbecued rabbit meat. Creak. The huge rabbit tugged at Feng Ruching's clothes, ears dropping, both hands in a position of pleading, staring at the divine spirit fruit in Feng Ruching's hands with its big blue eyes. You want to eat it? Feng Ruching laughingly looked at the big rabbit. Too bad this is only a secret realm. I can't bring you back to my princess manor. Never mind, I won't be calculative with you. This divine spirit fruit shall be given to you for free. With clear eyes, the big rabbit accepted the divine spirit fruit Feng Ruching had handed it. However, it did not eat the divine spirit fruit, but carefully kept it away, then continued to stare at Feng Ruching. Chapter 10:26. The huge rabbit too. Feng Ruching was speechless. Now even a rabbit was so shameless? One was actually not enough? Seeing that you are a dam and are pregnant with little bunnies, I will give you another one. However, it is also the last one. This rabbit's stomach was really big, so it must be pregnant. Feng Ruching was always a little gentler with pregnant spirit beasts. However, the dam still did not eat the divine spirit fruit and kept it away once again. Maybe it knew that it could only obtain 2 of the divine spirit fruit from Feng Ruching and therefore did not continue to bother itself with her. It bowed to her, then quickly turned and hopped away. Ching Han, do you feel that it is really weird? Feng Ruching turned her head and looked at little Ching Han. Little Ching Han was confused. What? This forest has thick spiritual qi, even no less than the spiritual chi in my space. But in such a thick forest, there isn't even a single spirit herb. Therefore, there were only two possibilities. This forest was not rich in producing spirit herbs, but the spirit herbs. As long as the spiritual chi reached a certain level, and after a certain number of years, they would be able to grow. This mountain range had such thick spiritual chi, it was impossible that not even a single spirit herb existed. The other possibility was, someone took away all the spirit herbs from the roots. However, everyone was clear. If one were to pick spirit herbs, one should never uproot them. Otherwise, it might take hundreds or thousands of years to grow the spiritual herbs again, or they might never grow again. If one left behind the roots, it would only take a couple of years or a few decades before they would be ready for harvesting again. Mother, there really is no breath of any spirit herbs. I don't know why either. Little Ching Han stared blankly. Feng Ruqing sighed. Asking her anything was really pointless. Let's continue walking. We need to leave this place. Me for extra chapters. Mother, do you want to go and look for Aunt Gu? Little Ching Han asked as she blinked. Feng Ruqing frowned. Gui? What happened to her? Didn't the Gu family say that she has entered the secret realm and disappeared? Feng Ruqing was silent for a moment. Oh, I didn't hear of it. Since that is the case, let's just casually look for Gui. In the depths of the forest on the mountain, crack, a whip heavily landed on the big rabbit's body. The big rabbit squeaked in pain, and the divine spirit fruit rolled out of its hands, falling to the ground. You group of stupid spirit beasts. I have asked all of you to pay a tribute of 2 pieces of spirit herbs each year. What did you bring? A grade 1 spirit herb? Using this kind of thing to fool the Lord? With a sneer on his face, he stomped on the divine spirit fruit, causing it to be crushed, with juices flowing all over the floor. The fragrance diffused, causing the big rabbit's eyes to turn red, looking at the crushed divine spirit fruit sadly. Crack! The whip struck once again, and the big rabbit's flesh ripped open, causing so much pain that its whole body was trembling as fresh blood flowed out. This is the price you pay for trying to fool me today. I want to let all the spirit beasts in the beast forest see it. Every single lash from the whip caused the big rabbit's body to shiver. It dared not evade, only making pleading sounds, hoping that the person in front of it would let her live. However, its begging and pitiful cries did not bring about mercy from that man. On the contrary, each lash became more violent and fierce. The big rabbit curled into a ball as if it had gotten used to the many years of bullying. Chapter 1027. The huge rabbit 3. Today was the day of tribute. It was not easy for it to obtain the 2 pieces of spirit herbs, but still, it could not avoid being beaten. When would this kind of days end? The big rabbit suddenly thought about the days before these people came into the beast forest. Originally, the beast forest had blue skies, and the air was exceptionally fresh. The big rabbit and its friends would run about in the grasslands, happy and blessed. Then, these people came. The beast forest was no longer peaceful since, as its friends were unable to bring spirit herbs as a tribute, they were either crippled or beaten to death. Now, was it also its turn? The surrounding spirit beasts could not bear to continue watching. Numerous panthers, snakes, tigers, foxes, all surrounded the place, growling. Why? Do you all want to rebel? The man sneered at the group of spirit beasts, smiling contemptuously at them. The price of your rebellion will simply be that the beast forest will cease to exist. Therefore, all of you better think it through. All the spirit beasts stopped in their tracks, glaring viciously at the man with their bloodshot eyes. These people have forced them for so many years, threatened them for so many years. They had given up their freedom to protect their homes. However, spirit beasts were still not pets. If one managed to tame a spirit beast, it would be loyal to that person, and would even be willing to sacrifice its life for that person. If that person was unable to tame these spirit beasts, they were cruel animals. As long as there was a chance, they would definitely bite him, even if it meant they could never recover from the consequences. Even if it was a rabbit, when cornered, it would bite too. Perhaps it was because many of its friends had died, or perhaps it could no longer take this kind of persecution. The big rabbit finally stood up from the ground. With a red light flashing through its blue eyes, it fiercely rushed toward the man and bit his arm. This fierce bite had caused the flesh on his arm to be ripped off, leaving behind fresh blood, similarly carving the pain of its inner being on him. Me for extra chapters. That was right. Since either way led to death, why should it quietly wait for its death? Why not just bite him? The man never thought that the gentle big rabbit would bite. The pain he felt was intense. With eyes filled with anger, the whip furiously lashed out once again. Seeking death, the sharp wind caused the big rabbit to move back a few steps, but it did not regret. Its eyes contained a stubborn determination. They were filled with mockery. When the long whip landed, a panther rushed over, using its huge body to withstand the lash. The big rabbit's ability was considered weak. If the lash that contained spiritual chi landed on its body, it most definitely would have lost its life instantly. Before these enemies had arrived, there was constant fighting in the beast forest. The weak species were always the ones being bullied, and sometimes were treated as food. However, when there was a foreign invader, they would naturally come together, working together to fight against foreign enemies. Not to mention, the spirit herbs in the beast forest have long been used up as tributes. This year, they could no longer find any spirit herbs. Some of the spirit beasts ran to human territories in hopes of surviving, but ended up being caught and were turned into slaves. The source of the big rabbit's spirit herb was unknown, but it was all they had. Therefore, they would definitely be next in line to die if the big rabbit died. At the brink of death, a lot of the spirit beast could not be bothered to think of other matters. They only knew one thing. This time, they would no longer hold back or retreat. Never again would they allow these tyrannical people destroy their homes. Chapter 1028. The Huge Rabbit 4. All of you really want to rebel. The man's eyes were cold, lifting his leg toward the fox who was running away. The fox quickly jumped up, avoiding the man's kick, and bit him with all its might. Its sharp teeth sank into the man's leg. Ah! The man was in intense pain. His eyes red as he angrily said, "Aren't you afraid that in a fit of anger, the Lord would annihilate your forest?" Growl. A fierce tiger approached the man, eyes flashing with a murderous glint. Countless persecution, countless mindless killings. Finally, these conservative and bullied spirit beasts understood. They could not protect their homes by just being weak and being afraid to fight. As long as they were unable to fulfill the wishes of mankind, they would die in the hands of these people, and they would be unable to protect their homes sooner or later. Since that was the case, why should they continue to be cowardly? Why should they continuously tolerate it? The man's face changed. With just his abilities, there was no way he would be able to defend against the spirit beasts once they go crazy. They had been docile for so many years. He had thought this group of spirit beasts were tame and would only follow the Lord's orders. Who would have known that they would suddenly go crazy? Furthermore, the big rabbit did not have good cultivation and it ate a lot. What was the point of keeping it? Such a weak little thing. It did not even have the qualifications to be the Lord's guard. All of you better stop. If you guys dare to touch me, the Lord will never let you all off. It hurt. A cat's claw made 5 long scratches on his body. It was so painful that he almost burst into tears. He said hoarsely, "You group of crazy idiots, you better stop. You just don't want to go and look for spirit herbs anymore. That's all, right? I'll forgive all of you for being lazy. As long as you hand in the spirit herbs after 3 months, that would suffice. Quickly, stop." For the crazed spirit beast, it was not so easy to recover their spiritual wisdom. Spirit beasts are naturally ferocious. This sentence was not without reason. It depended on how one drove them mad. For the spirit beasts that had gone mad, their eyes only contained murderous intent, and they only wanted to tear the man who bullied them into shreds. Me for extra chapters. The man was shedding tears of regret. He could not understand why he insisted on obliterating the rabbit. However, he understood that regretting now was already too late because all the spirit beasts had already gone crazy. The spirit beasts pounced on the man, biting and devouring him as if they wanted to vent all the grievances they received all these years. The big rabbit's breath was already becoming weak. It had just endured numerous lashes and had used all of its strength to pounce and bite the man back. At this moment, it was lying on the ground, exhaling more than it was inhaling. Even if its life could be preserved this time, the babies in its womb would not be able to survive. The few rabbits that were left of the rabbit clan surrounded the big rabbit, whimpering and wailing, with tears pouring from their eyes. These rabbits were not as huge as the big rabbit. The small ones were only half its size. This showed that the big rabbit's cultivation and position within the rabbit clan were quite high. It was a pity. It was almost nearing its end. The big rabbit looked at the other rabbits reluctantly, wishing to reach its paw out to touch its subordinates around it, but it did not have the energy to even raise its paw. Inevitably, the big rabbit thought of the human lady who had given it the divine spirit fruit. That was the kindest lady it had ever met. Mankind was evil, but it was already desperate. If it could not bring out any spirit herb as tribute, it would have died for sure. Furthermore, that little lady next to the human had a breath that spirit beasts liked. That kind of breath was similar to that of a spirit herb. Therefore, it had mustered its courage to ask for the divine spirit fruit. Seeing its shameless action, she had actually handed over some divine spirit fruits. She really was the best person it had ever met. Chapter 1029. Saving the Rabbit Eye in the Dense Forest. A young childish voice called out from the bushes, crisp and sweet. "Mother, this is the big rabbit that has cheated you of the divine spirit fruits. Is it dying? Then, does this mean I can eat barbecued rabbit meat?" Little Ching Han's fingers touched her lips, saliva almost drooling from her mouth. She stared at the big rabbit that was lying on the ground. When the big rabbit died, did it mean she could eat it whole? In the close vicinity, Feng Ruching followed the line of little Ching Han's eyes and saw the big rabbit whose body was covered with lashes from a whip. It was at its last breath and would die very soon. A few rabbits surrounded it, wailing and crying. Their voices were filled with distraught and everyone could feel it deeply. Besides that, countless spirit beasts were pouncing on a man's body. Their eyes were ferocious, angry, and fierce. It was as if they were venting out all their bottled-up anger. The man's clothes had already been torn to pieces. His body was covered in blood as he screamed hoarsely. Too bad. Not a single spirit beast was willing to let him go. They had already decided to take his death lightly and could not wait to chew the man beneath them into pieces. They did not take the man's life instantly, but rather tortured him slowly. It was unclear just how much resentment these spirit beasts were carrying for them to act so maliciously. From the slow devouring by the spirit beasts, the man was quickly dying. Even his begging had faded, and he was quickly losing his breath. He never could have imagined that the spirit beasts would go crazy one day, nor did he thought that his life would be lost at the hands of these spirit beasts. When the man died, these spirit beasts slowly regained their calm. Perhaps it was because they had just killed a man. Their eyes still contained murderous intent, and they started to slowly move from the man toward Feng Ruching. A female human? Humankind was never good news. They hated the human race. Because of these people, their homes were thrown into chaos. Me for extra chapters. All the spirit beasts surrounded Feng Ruching, their eyes red, throats making low growls as a sign of threat. If this human dared to take one step closer, her ending would be the same as the man. Make way. Feng Ruching's face was indifferent. If you don't want this rabbit to die, all of you better make way. The spirit beasts did not move, but simply stood there looking at Feng Ruching in a hostile manner. Everything the humankind had done to the forest had made them unable to trust in these people. "Mother." Little Ching Han bit her fingernails and turned toward Feng Ruching. "These spirit beasts are scolding you." Feng Ruching was speechless. "I heard them saying that all humans are bad guys. They would never trust anyone. They are too much. So, let's not care about the rabbit already. That way, she would have barbecued rabbit meat to eat." Feng Ruching looked down and stared at the extremely weak big rabbit and then at its stomach. "I am only going to say this for the last time. I can save it. Its babies are already gone. If I don't save it now, it will lose its life. If she had arrived earlier, perhaps the babies could still survive. However, when she had arrived, the babies had already died in the womb. There was no way. Spirit beasts were smarter than the average pets, as these spirit beasts had regained their wisdom, but even so, the spirit beast's intelligence was still limited. They had a one-tracked mind and were not flexible at all. Chapter 1030. Saving the Rabbit 2. Looking at the rabbit who was not going to make it, Feng Ruching could not care less anymore. She softly commanded, "Qing Han, help me drive away all these spirit beasts." Little Qing Han's gaze contained a tinge of regret. However, she was always most obedient to Feng Ruching. No matter what Feng Ruching said, that would be it. Therefore, when she heard this, she gently sighed. "All of you better stand aside obediently. Don't force me to take action and eat you guys, okay?" Rustle. Countless vines broke out of the ground, just like a dragon breaking through a cage. In the blink of an eye, all the spirit beasts were tied up. The little lady smiled. "All of you must be obedient. You are a good child only if you listen to mother." Without any hindrance, Feng Ruching slowly walked toward the big rabbit. When she arrived by the big rabbit's side, she waved her sleeve and took out a pot. That was right, a pot. All the spirit beasts that were bound by the vines swore it was, as if they had lost their minds. Feng Ruching could not understand what those spirit beasts were saying. She took out some ingredients, a pile of firewood and flint. After rubbing the flint vigorously, the firewood lit up. More exaggeratedly, Feng Ruching brought out a basin of water from God knows where and poured it into the pot. The spirit beast's eyes turned red. Humankind really was never good news. This horrible woman said that she wanted to save the rabbit, but ended up wanting to cook the rabbit. She was even using spirit herbs to cook the rabbit. That was too much. The spirit beast's numbers had been declining over the years. In the past, with the numerous different clans amongst the spirit beasts, there was still fighting and killing. Ever since the spirit beasts had become scarce, all the spirit beasts no longer killed each other. Be it a tiger, cheetah, wolf, or dog, or even any other carnivorous animal, all of them had turned vegetarian. They would be reluctant to eat such a big rabbit. Now it would actually be eaten by this human. It was too much. It was really too much. The spirit beast cultivations were never lacking in the first place. They were just caught off guard by Qing Han, and that was why they were tied up. Now, in a fit of anger, a black hunting dog broke free from its constraints, limping at great speed toward Feng Ruching. Me for extra chapters. Feng Ruching calmly poured the various ingredients into the pot. Over the slow fire, the soup became thicker, exuding an irresistible fragrance. The fragrance was like an invisible hand, tickling the tip of the hunting dog's nose. To the hunting dog who had eaten raw food for many years, it had been years since it had tasted such delicious food for a long time. So, its brain blanked out for a moment. He stopped in his tracks and he looked at the pot in front of Feng Ruching with great yearning. Fragrant, too fragrant. This feeling, it was like that year when he was still living at his master's house. His master had treated him extremely well and frequently fed it. Oh, back then it was only a normal watchdog, not a spirit beast. It also did not know about cultivation and only knew how to watch its master's courtyard. Later on, what had happened later on? That was right. Its owner got married and his wife got pregnant. She complained that it was dirty and the owner eventually chased it out of the house. In reality, it would go to the nearby lake to take a bath every 3 days. It was not even dirty. It was chased out and became a stray, frequently starving. Once, because of hunger, it had broken into a house to steal some food, but it had ended up being beaten, making it no longer daring enough to steal. Ever since it left its owner, it no longer enjoyed any tender loving care because it was just a stray dog. Even if it did not do anything wrong, and even got beaten badly by a thief for watching the family courtyard. Chapter 1031. Saving the rabbit. Later on, it had drifted to the beast forest, and the spirit beasts here treated it very well, and they would pick mushrooms for it to eat. Even if the mushrooms were unpalatable, it still felt very blessed. It had been a long time since it had the blessing of receiving love and care. Slowly, it started to follow the spirit beasts in cultivating. Its talent was good, and it quickly surpassed its teachers who had taught it. Back then it had thought, if its owner knew that it was no longer an ordinary watchdog but was a strong spirit beast, would he regret it one day? However, before it had managed to find its owner, the beast forest had met with danger. It was also then that it understood why the beast forest had always been peaceful. The number of spirit beasts was declining. To fight against the humankind that was bullying them, they no longer fought and killed amongst themselves. On the contrary, they worked together. Everyone became vegetarians. Furthermore, all the former pets who had strayed into the beast forest were adopted by the spirit beasts and taught to cultivate. All this was to add to the forces of the spirit beasts. The hunting dog's eyes turned red. It was not like the other spirit beasts. It had feelings toward mankind even though it had been abandoned. But to it, its friends in the beast forest were more important. It would not allow anybody to simply hurt its friends in the beast forest. Woof! The dog growled angrily as it rushed toward Feng Ruching once again. The moment when it rushed to Feng Ruching had already scooped a ladle of soup and brought it before the dog. "Your leg is slightly wounded. Drink up." The dog froze and looked at the soup as Feng Ruching brought it before its eyes. It remembered back when it was still at its master's house. It once fell sick and its master had boiled medicine for it. That was why it never forgot him all these years. It understood that its owner had his own difficulties, and it was not that he had intentionally disregarded it. It wanted to become stronger and return proudly. The dog moved toward the ladle of soup and licked the soup. Spiritual chi gathered in its leg, reducing the pain in its leg quite substantially. It was so pleasant that the dog gobbled up the rest of the spirit herb soup. Feng Ruching saw that the spirit beasts were no longer hostile toward her, so she turned toward little Qing Han and said, "Let them go." "All right, mother." Little Qing Han loosened the vines and let all the spirit beasts go. Originally, these spirit beasts were too badly harmed, and thus their vigilance toward humans was also very high. The moment they saw that Feng Ruching was not intending to cook the rabbit, but was actually boiling spirit herb soup, their hearts felt at ease. However, their eyes were still alert and vigilant, but without the previous ferociousness. Me for extra chapters. Feng Ruching scooped another ladle of the spirit herb soup and brought it to the side of the big rabbit's mouth. She used force to pry open the mouth of the rabbit and poured in the medicine. Half of the soup entered the rabbit's mouth, but the other half flowed out, soaking its fur. The rabbit burped, belched, and slowly opened its eyes. What it saw was a familiar and stunning face. The big rabbit's heart beat fast. If it was not because of the pain coming from its abdomen that was causing it to suppress its impulse, it would have run toward Feng Ruching. It was her again, the kind-hearted person. "You wound will be fine, but the babies could not be saved. I will help you to remove those babies in a while, but it will hurt a little. You'll have to endure for a bit." The big rabbit was stunned. Its eyes dimmed and tears began to flow. Its eyes reflected pain. The buck had died from falling off a cliff when searching for spirit herbs. The babies that were in its stomach were the sole bloodline the buck had left behind. But now, even they could no longer live. Chapter 1032. Saving the rabbit. For if you don't take them out, the babies inside your abdomen will affect your body. Feng Ruching knew the big rabbit was unwilling to take out its babies, but there was no way out. The babies in its abdomen had obviously lost their vitals. The big rabbit's eyes looked dull, but when it heard Feng Ruching's words, it regained consciousness and nodded slightly. It understood that there was no use keeping these babies because they would not survive. A group of rabbits crowded around the big rabbit. They rubbed their heads against it and seemed anxious. The big rabbit turned its head and stared at the group of rabbits with a gentle gaze. Even if it had lost its children, the rest of the rabbits were also its children. It would protect them for the rest of its life. Later, it'll boil some spirit herbs that will give you the strength to deliver the dead babies. The process will be as painful as labor. Do let me know if you can't endure the pain." The big rabbit nodded. A group of rabbits mumbled around the big rabbit, and the big rabbit responded with a few words. Feng Ruching lifted her head and looked at Qing Han. She asked, "Little Qing Han, what are they talking about?" Qing Han stayed silent. She wanted to tell her mother that these rabbits were swearing at her, but that would make her a liar and at the same time wrongly frame the rabbit. Mother once said a good child would not tell any lies. Those rabbits are asking the big rabbit whether it recognizes you or not. The big rabbit said that you once gave divine spirit fruits to it, even though the divine spirit fruits did not please those people. It was no wonder when the big rabbit was done speaking, the spirit beasts around it looked at her without hostility anymore. "Mother," little Qing Han asked blankly. "Just now those spirit beasts were so hostile. They wanted to attack you, but why are you still willing to help them?" "Why?" Feng Ruching chuckled in a low voice. "These spirit beasts come from a different tribe, including tigers, wolves, leopards, and eagles. But all of them are protecting this rabbit. The spirit beasts in the forest of spirit beasts would not recklessly attack humans. But competition still existed among the different tribes. They hunted or be hunted. This kind of phenomenon was no more after she kept some of these spirit beasts. But before that, it had always been like this. The beast forest was different. No matter what tribes they were in, all of them were defending this rabbit. Me for extra chapters. Perhaps it was because of this that had made her willing to save these spirit beasts. Little Qing Han was dumbfounded. She did not understand what her mother was talking about, but it always made sense to her. Either way, mother is always right, no matter what she says. Feng Ruching poured the spirit herb soup and gave it to the spirit beasts. She then took out other ingredients and started cooking. Over the years, these spirit beasts had eaten not only vegetables, but also raw food. They had not enjoyed such extreme flavors for a long time. More importantly, the spirit herbs dishes prepared by Feng Ruching were more able to attract these spirit beasts. Their hostility toward Feng Ruching had diminished a lot, and they did not portray any hint of vigilance since spirit beasts were not wild animals that only knew how to kill each other. Those who became spirit beasts must have been spiritually wise. Hence, they did understand a lot of principles, and they knew gratitude. Even if they were detested by humans, they were still grateful once they helped them. This was the spirit beast. Simple and persistent. They never had a single complicated thought. After the big rabbit consumed the spirit herb soup boiled by Feng Ruching, it felt severe pain in its lower abdomen. It was more painful than labor, but there was no other way out. Feng Ruching could not cut it open and remove the dead babies inside the big rabbit's abdomen. It was not huaxia here. There were no complete utensils here. Even if they did, Feng Ruching had never studied medicine when she was in huaxia before. She would not dare to do so. This was the only way to help it. Chapter 1033. She became the king of spirit beasts. Time passed. The big rabbit under the setting sun had finally calmed down. It looked weak, but it stared at Feng Ruching with a grateful gaze. "Well, if you're doing fine, then I should leave now." Feng Ruching glanced at the big rabbit and saw that it was already doing fine. She held little Qing Han's hand and turned around, prepared to leave. The group of spirit beasts came and surrounded her. Feng Ruching frowned. "What? Do you still want to fight me?" A pack of black wolves kneeled first. They moved synchronously like well-trained wolves. When the black wolves kneeled, the other spirits beasts immediately followed them and kneeled in front of Feng Ruching. Their eyes were filled with respect. "Mother," little Qing Han tugged at Feng Ruching's sleeve. "These spirit beasts are treating you as their king." Feng Ruching was speechless. She was just a passerby. How did she become the king of the spirit beasts? Feng Ruching hesitated for a while. "I won't stay here longer. You don't need to serve me. There is no way I can bring you along with me." The little rabbits of the tribe were all anxious. They made an imploring whimper and pathetically stared at Feng Ruching. "Mother, these little rabbits said that only you could save the beasts' forest. They like you and only you can be their king." Feng Ruching held her forehead. There is nothing you can do to subjugate me. I really can't stay here. If only she could take away the spirit beasts from the secret realm. What was the point of being their king if she could not take them with her? There was a disappointment in the rabbit's eyes. They knew that Feng Ruching was unwilling to stay. Even if they forced her, there was no way they could stop her from leaving. They could only retract the outstretched claws. Chi-Chi, the big rabbit, crawled up weakly. It rubbed its head against Feng Ruching. Deep in its azure eyes showed the heaviness in its heart in parting with her. It did not know what she was talking about. Feng Ruching turned to little Qing Han. This time, little Qing Han instantly understood. She continued saying, "The big rabbit told me that she wants to send you off. There is a shortcut to leave the beast's forest." Good. Feng Ruching lowered her gaze. She raised one of her hands and rubbed the big rabbit's head. "After this, you can't run around anymore. You must find a place to hide so that the people will not hurt you again. Maybe one day I will come back to you." Me for extra chapters. She had more important things to do. It was impossible to stay in the beast forest, and because of that, she was unable to guard these spirit beasts. The big rabbit smiled, satisfied, and rubbed its fuzzy head against Feng Ruching. It squeaked and headed off in a certain direction. Feng Ruching held little Qing Han's hand and walked behind the big rabbit. Behind her was a large group of spirit beasts, seeming as if they were guarding her, slowly following her steps. The number of spirit beasts in the beast forest was no longer large, but the beast forest territory was quite big. They walked from dusk to midnight and from night till dawn to leave the beast forest. All the spirit beasts stood in a row. They watched Feng Ruching's departing figure until her figure disappeared, and they did not turn back. On the mountain road, little Qing Han turned her head and looked at the spirit beasts that were left behind them. She bit her finger, and her eyes were filled with regret. These spirit beasts were all good. It's too bad. If they were evil spirit beasts, they could have become my snacks. Chapter 1034. She became the king of spirit beasts. Feng Ruching laughed. "Do you hate to leave these spirit beasts?" "No, I don't. I only like Big Doggy. But Brother Fu Chin once taught me that we must know how to differentiate between love and hate. Those who bullied me, I can bully them back. But if they didn't bully me, I can't hurt them." As much as she wanted to eat some meat, Feng Ruching sighed. Sometimes, the human heart is more complicated than the spirit beasts. Little Qing Han smiled. "Mother, just now when the spirit beasts were talking, I heard that they wanted you to stay because you are the only one who won't hurt them and the only one who can protect them. So, they want you to be the king and refuse to let you go." Who said spirit beasts were foolish? They were very clear and understood who could be their benefactor. So, why did they relent? Oh, it was the big rabbit that said that you were not the opponent of that lord. If you stayed, it would only increase the casualties. So the spirit beasts were willing to let you go. Feng Ruching fluttered and stopped. Little Qing Han did not stop quick enough, so her little nose bumped against Feng Ruching's back. Her eyes started brimming with tears of pain as she stared at Feng Ruching with her innocent eyes. Feng Ruching suddenly smiled. "I forgot. I don't know how long I will stay in this secret realm, and I don't even know how to leave this place. So there is nothing wrong with being the king of spirit beasts. At least, those spirit beasts can help me find my way back." Perhaps they could also find whatever that had summoned little Qing Han. She always felt that these spirit beasts could not be taken out of the secret realm, but she forgot that even in the secret realm, she needed a force. Since the spirit beast and humans were equivalent, she would instead choose the forest beast's side. "Come on, Qing Han. Let's go back." Feng Ruching smiled and held Qing Han's hand. They slowly turned around and walked in the direction of the beast forest again. Little Qing Han blinked, staring blankly at the young girl beside her. She did not understand. That was the reason why Mother wants to go back? But little Qing Han always felt there was another reason that she did not know. In the beast forest, the spirit beast's eyes were red with anger as they stared at the men in black standing in front of them. Their hairs bristled and all of them were ready to fight. Me for extra chapters. I accidentally sent a signal when at death's door that the spirit beasts have revolted. Looks like it really happened. As my lord's slaves, how dare you do so? Are you tired of living? The leader, who was a middle-aged man, laughed scornfully. He gave them a sneering and contemptuous glance. He took a barbed hook in his hand and stabbed it viciously into a black wolf's abdomen. With one hard yank, the wolf's intestines were pulled out of its body. The black wolf did not react but simply collapsed to the ground. Blood gushed out of its body and splashed all over the place. The scene was gory in everyone's eyes. Howl, roar, chee-chee, woof. All the spirit beasts were burning with anger as they rushed toward the group of black-dressed men without any scruple. The cruel and bloody light sparked in their fierce eyes. This time, they would rather be wiped out in a battle than being oppressed by any threats. The big rabbit had not yet recovered, but the king of the rabbit clan was dead. As the queen, it must rise and fight all the dangers and tribulations. The only thing that made the big rabbit relieved was that the kind human was gone. Chapter 1035. She became the king of spirit beasts 3 Thud. A hunting dog's body was suddenly flung away by one of the men's punch. It fell from the air and onto the big rabbit. The big rabbit could have moved away, but instead, it chose to become a meat pad for the dog by catching its body. The dog did not suffer any injury, but its heart grieved in pain. Its teary eyes were filled with burning anger and a feeling of deep sorrow. It once lived in the human world and loved them deeply. Even though it had suffered from pain, it still loved them as always. But it did not understand. Why, as a spirit beast, it could not coexist with humans? These people had taken them as slaves and made them lose their freedom of life. Of course, in this continent where the strong were revered, many people would never care about the weak. But in the country called Huaxia, a place where Feng Ruching lived, there would always be people that were affable and kind-hearted. The dog fell to the ground again. Blood was flowing from the corner of its mouth, and the pain in its eyes was even more profound. Seeing its fellow beasts collapse one by one, it forced its frail body to crawl up from the ground. It was a hunting dog. When On saved it once, it would pay him back with its life. Howl! The hunting dog howled in despair. With a determined stance, it stepped toward the middle-aged man who was the leader of that group. Its stride was fragile that it could hardly stand up, but it did not let itself fall. Its pair of eyes exuded firmness. Seeing the middle-aged man's sword stabbed into the wolf, it opened its mouth and bit down on his blade. Blood dripped from its mouth. It bit it tightly, refusing to let it go. Get out of here. The middle-aged man gathered spiritual energy on his fist and punched the dog's body fiercely. The moment the dog flew out, a vision of its childhood emerged in its mind. The dog ran around playfully with its young master. That was the happiest moment in its memory in its life. It was just a short moment, but too precious to forget. Tears poured down. The dog fell from the air to the ground, landing in front of a pair of feet. It froze and looked up. In a moment, it was looking at a stunning face. Me for extra chapters. The young girl was expressionless, making it impossible to read her emotions. Her red dress was more extravagant than the dazzling sun, yet not indecent. The bloody carcasses on the ground made Feng Ruching raise her head. Her gaze was fixed upon the group of men in black who were fighting and killing the spirit beasts. She did not expect it. She had only just left not long ago, and the beast forest was already in the throes of extinction. The single man before this group of men was not very powerful, so that the spirit beasts could kill him easily. But the men here now were different. The spirit beasts were unable to resist. They could only be abused and murdered by them. But these spirit beasts, just a moment ago, they were following behind, full of life. The big rabbit whimpered. It did not understand why she had come back. They had let her go. Why did she come back? Little girl, the middle-aged man chuckled. These spirit beasts all have a master. If you want to torture them, you can go elsewhere. Feng Ruching seemed expressionless. Indeed, these spirit beasts all have a master. The middle-aged man raised his eyebrows. This girl was sensible. If she dared to snatch these spirit beasts, he would make her blood spill to the ground. Because Feng Rooking's lip curved into a mocking smile. All of these spirit beasts are mine. The middle-aged man froze for a moment and became furious. Little girl, these spirit beasts have been with my master for many years. Do you think that just because you claim them to be yours that they would become yours? Chapter 1036. 1 year one in the light breeze. A young girl crouched down. She took out a spirit herb from the medium. In the center of this spirit herb was a green bloom surrounded by purple leaves. She plucked a leaf and fed it to the hunting dog. The grade 5 violet milvus bloom. It could stabilize the condition of the wound and relieve the pain. The spirit beast's injuries were too severe to be cured. The only way to heal the wounds was to consume a spirit herbs dish. However, she had no spare spirit herbs dishes because she had no time to prepare. She could only use violet milvus bloom to stabilize the injuries of these beasts. The middle-aged man squinted. The spirit herbs in this place were extremely scarce. Otherwise, they would not have commanded these spirit beasts to seek it. And here, this girl had grade 5 spirit herbs in her hands. Big rabbit, pluck off the violet milvus bloom's leaves and give it to these spirit beasts who have been seriously injured. Feng Ruching stood up. She took out a few more violet milvus blooms and handed them to the big rabbit. She raised her eyes and stared at the group of men with an impassive gaze. Her eyes seemed to have a dim light in them. You see, these spirit beasts have eaten my spirit herbs, so they now belong to me. Her voice was calm. Yet beneath the calmness hid a terrifying storm, just like a calm sea concealing stormy waves that were unknown to the world. At any given moment, it could sweep people away. Little girl, why would you waste your spirit herbs on these spirit beasts? The middle-aged man got even angrier. A cold smile was playing at the corners of his mouth. How can lowly beasts be qualified to enjoy an expensive spirit herb? Feng Rooking's voice was as light as the breeze. Oh, I have a lot of spirit herbs. I can give them to whomever I like. Besides, in my observation, these spirit beasts are nobler than you. Boom. The middle-aged man fiercely raged like a lion and pounced violently on Feng Ruching. His eyes filled with the intention to kill. The sword in his hand slashed at Feng Ruching. Feng Ruching stood still in the light breeze. Me for extra chapters. The moment when the middle-aged man's sword was about to make contact with Feng Ruching, countless vines instantly broke from the ground around him, like ropes, firmly circling the long blade in the middle-aged man's hand, making him unable to move. The men were so startled that their faces turned pale. He turned his head slightly as his gaze fell upon the little girl's sweet face. Her pinkish fair face lit up with a grin and her big eyes were as bright as stars. Such a little girl would make the heart rejoice at first glance, but somehow, a cold icy chill bubbled up in the middle-aged man's heart. The little girl's smile grew brighter. Just now, Mother refused to harm those spirit beasts, so I have left them alone. But now Mother doesn't like you. Initially, with Qing Han's strength, she would not have let those spirit beasts any chance to break free from the vines. But because she did not use much power, the hunting dog could still escape from her grip. But for these people in front of her, she showed no mercy. The group of men started to move. All the figures were like a whirlwind. In an instant, they were already in front of Feng Ruching. Feng Ruching calmly raised her eyes. She moved with the wind, and in the blink of an eye, she was already behind one of them. The sharp sword beheaded the man in a flash of sword ray, forcing its way through the man's flesh from the man's back. The young girl's speed was too fast. He did not react in time before the sword ray had already sliced across his back. The red blood that gushed out stained his black coat. Chapter 1037. 1 year. The group of men in black finally reacted. Their anger rose in 3 waves, and they once again leaned toward Feng Ruqing. Even though Feng Ruqing had already broken through to intermediate Dark Warrior tier, she was not facing just one Dark Warrior but a large number of them. Even without the middle-aged man's lead, these black-dressed men could still win by numbers. Otherwise, there would not have been so many spirit beasts dead at their hands. Howl! Even the hunting dog and other beasts, which had recovered just a bit, could not just stand idly by. With determination in their eyes, they entered the battlefield again. Time passed by slowly. The setting sun set the sky ablaze with fiery red. The devastatingly beautiful young girl holding her sword dripping with blood, making her red dress more garish than ever, stood in the evening breeze with unrivaled grace and elegance. Little Qing Han rubbed her chin and silently watched the scene unfold. As for the middle-aged man she had just tied up with vines, she was a little too excited earlier. She failed to control her strength and had strangled him to death. Without the middle-aged man, many of the spirit beasts could recover from their injuries. The group of men had lost their numerical advantage and was gradually defeated. They lost their lives in the mountains. But the beasts could never forget the gloom brought by this battle. They could never understand what they had done wrong. Maybe it was a mistake for the spirit beasts to be alive. Howl! The hunting dog whimpered, its voice tinged with grief and despair. It looked at its companions who had fallen in a pool of blood and could no longer be saved. After all this, it did not know whether it still trust and love the humankind. Suddenly, the dog recalled something and stared at the young girl who was standing under the setting sun. The young girl's figure was tall and thin, but somehow it had grown taller in its heart. It also ignited all the hope within it. See, not all human beings were vicious and insidious. There were always those who would not bully the weak or trample on someone's life. There were those who would not humiliate them. It chose to trust the human again, even if it had bruises all over. Bury the bodies of your companions. Feng Ruqing's eyes fell on those carcasses on the ground. As for the enemy's corpses, it is up to you to do whatever you want. In the meantime, I will stay in the beast forest. Howl! Woof! Me for extra chapters. Chi-Chi. Hearing that Feng Ruqing would not be leaving, all the spirit beasts cried out in joy. It was just a short stay, but it made them grow to rely on her. They were unwilling to let her leave. It's getting late. Big Rabbit, take me somewhere to rest. She glanced at the fallen spirit beasts in the pool of blood for the last time and allowed the big rabbit to lead her to the nearest cave. Through some inquiries along their way, Feng Ruqing finally understood the situation in the beast forest. It was remarkably similar to Tsangyu mainland. The spirit beasts in this secret realm were mighty back then that they were able to divide the territory with the humans. The spirit beasts were divided into various tribes, and each of them had its beast king. Later, when humans claimed to live in harmony with the spirit beasts, they had invited all the beast kings to a feast. The beast kings were always simple-minded. Their senses were not sharp enough to think that it was a trap. Since then, all the beast kings had disappeared. Chapter 1038. 1 year the spirit beasts that had lost their beast king were like a swarm of dragons without a leader, and soon all the territories were invaded by humans. The worst thing was the human emperor back then was determined to annihilate the spirit beasts. But he was also afraid that the spirit beasts would regain equal privileged strength as humans. So, he had poisoned the water sources of the spirit beasts and prohibited them from leaving their territory. In that case, there were only 2 options. The beasts would either die of thirst or drink the water and limit the speed of their cultivation. In other words, the spirit beasts that could break through the first level in 1 year would need 10 years to achieve that after drinking the water. The emperor also knew that spirit beasts generally have a long lifespan. The spirit beasts also have certain strengths that could be utilized by humans. They were growing slowly and would not threaten humans. Feng Ruqing, by coincidence, came upon a lake and walked to the edge of it. She crouched down and gently cupped her hand in the lake water. She sniffed it and frowned. The grade 6 saffron bloom powder. The poison in the water source was easy to cure, but the spirit beasts had no idea about the spirit herbs. Over the years, the spirit herbs had been contributed to someone called the Lord, so there were even fewer spirit herbs to cure the poison. In spite of that, they needed to wait until Feng Ruching had made a breakthrough to Immortal Warrior tier before she could cultivate grade 6 spirit herbs and cure the poison. Let's go. While I am here, no spirit beast will be allowed to drink this water. As long as you don't drink it, after 7 days, the toxicity of the saffron bloom will disappear. The effects of saffron bloom's toxic were not continuous. Otherwise, it would have been unnecessary to put the poison in the water source. They could have just forced them to eat the poison. The toxic attrition would take 7 days to process. If one did not drink this water for 7 days, one would inevitably die of thirst. But once he drank it, the toxicity would remain. Chi-Chi. The big rabbit tilted its head and stared at Feng Ruching with a puzzled look. Feng Ruching laughed. Have the spirit beasts dig up a water lake, but don't link any water sources with it. I will give you new water. Within the medium, there was not only ordinary water, but also the eye of the spirit spring. To avoid wasting the spirit water flowing out of the eye of the spirit spring, she had dug out a lake in the medium earlier and filled with spirit water. If she mixed ordinary water with spirit water, these spirit beasts would not only solve the water source dilemma, but would also be able to increase their strength faster. Of course, as long as, oh yes, by the way, ask the spirit beasts to queue up and sign a contract with me one by one. I can't take you away, but in this place, I am your lord. Me for extra chapters. Chi-Chi. The big rabbit responded cheerfully. In the future, would they have a new water source? Do they never have to drink that poison water again? One more thing. Feng Ruching thought for a moment. If you have nothing to do, go and take more baths. You can also cultivate in the lake. Don't waste it. When spirit water was put into the lake, even bathing in the water lake could enhance the strength, so it must not be wasted. After saying this, Feng Ruching took Qing Han's small hand and continued to walk forward. Her brows furrowed, but she held on to the hand, wondering what she was thinking about. Mother, what's wrong? Little Qing Han tilted her head in confusion and looked at Feng Ruching. Feng Ruching loosened her brow. It's nothing. I think. The beast forest still lacks a formation. Mother, I remember that Brother Fu-chan once had a book that was filled with martial arts. Back then, Brother Fu-chan was obsessed with martial arts and had ignored me, so I hid the book. Little Qing Han smiled. If Mother wants it, he'll go to the medium and find it for you. Chapter 1039. 1 year IV. Feng Ruching was dumbstruck by Qing Han's words. It was natural that Fu-chan was well-versed in formations. By the way, don't let Brother Fu-chan know that I hid his book. Otherwise, he would beat me. Qing Han tugged at Feng Ruching's sleeve as she said innocently, All right, if you could get the book for me, I will not tell Fu-chan. Mother, you can find all the formations you want in that book. I will get it for you later. Qing Han smiled brightly. She looked so pure and innocent. Feng Ruching stroked her chin as she narrowed her eyes. By doing this, the forest of spirit beasts could regain its peace for an amount of time. At least, no one would disturb them for a while. In Marquis City, a young master in a richly intricate brocade forcefully smashed the cup in his hand. He stared coldly at the people kneeling not far below him. His face darkened a few shades. What's wrong with you? You lost your way in the forest of spirit beasts for 1 whole year, and you could not even see a spirit beast? Where are all the rebellious spirit beasts? Where are the people that I have sent into the forest back then? None of them came back? Not far below the young master, the guard lowered his head and did not dare look up at the young master. Marquis, this subordinate has no idea. The people that we have sent to the forest of spirit beasts were stuck in the same place for quite some time, taking the same path over and over again. This subordinate thinks that someone must have set up a formation in the forest of spirit beasts to stop anyone from entering. Hearing this, the young master's face took on a ghastly expression. Formation? Those foolish spirit beasts are capable of setting up a formation? There must be a daredevil who has helped the spirit beast to do that. A beautiful lady was lying bashfully in the young master's embrace. A dusky blush rose to her cheek. Her smiling eyes were full of affection. Marquis, who dares to invade and commandeer the forest of spirit beasts? Who in Tianyue Kingdom doesn't know that the forest of spirit beasts belongs to you? Perhaps this is just an excuse from these insolent subordinates who have gone out to enjoy themselves and have paid no heed to their tasks. The young master's face darkened. He slammed his hand on the table. How dare you lie to me? Take this idiot out and beat him to death. You reap what you sow. Me for extra chapters. The guard went pale. He frantically kowtowed to the young master. Blood started to run down his forehead. Marquis, please spare my life. I am telling the truth. There is formation in the forest of spirit beasts. Initially, the butler of the Marquis Manor had merely stood quietly on the side. Seeing this, he could not help but kneel down as he pleaded. Marquis, these subordinates are the subordinates of the old Marquis. They are infinitely loyal. They would never lie to you. Seeing this, the bowtie's eyes reddened and broke into tears. Her rosy cheek turned pale. Her once smiling face turned gloomy. Marquis, the butler is saying that this concubine is stirring up trouble. If that is the case, I don't want to live anymore. Please grant me death. The beauty left Zhang Tianwu's arms, bent her legs, and wanted to kneel down. Her body was so soft as if it was boneless. Naturally, Zhang Tianwu could not bear seeing such a gorgeous lady crying. He quickly helped the gorgeous lady got up. His eyes were full of affection, but his heart was boiling with rage. Your Honor, this has nothing to do with you. How dare this old coot make you a scapegoat? Take him out and beat him to death. The butler was dumbstruck by the young master's remark. He only regained his senses when two people were holding up his body. His heart was broken. He shouted until his face turned blue. You tyrant! You will ruin the kingdom and bring calamity to the people. You have actually trusted this lady. There will be a day of reckoning for the things you have done. Chapter 1040. 1 year. The butler had been working so diligently and was infinitely loyal to the Marquis all these years. But now, the Marquis wanted to take the butler's life just because of the crocodile tears shed by a gorgeous lady. Haha, the Marquis Manor's number is up. Seeing how the Marquis treated the butler, the guard was no longer begging for mercy. He merely got up and walked out the door on his own after kowtowing to Zhang Tianwu like a martyr rushing to the place of execution in boundless grief and pain. Your Honor is my dearest concubine. If anyone dares to treat her rudely in the future, this is the price you pay. Zhang Tianwu helped Your Honor to get up. His piercing eyes swept past everyone on the spot. His tone was cold and domineering. Your Honor's stunning face was covered in tears. She looked extremely pathetic, just like a tiny little flower that was not capable of standing against the wind and rain, so it must be protected. Yes, Marquis. Everyone on the spot kneeled down and answered respectfully. What happened to the young princess and Gonger? Young Marquis wanted to look for the young princess, but the guard hesitated for a while before he continued. It seems that the young princess has a new playmate and has not been spending time with the young Marquis for quite some time. Hearing this, Zhang Tianwu's face darkened. A glimmer of vicious light flashed in his eyes. Zhang Tianwu was granted the title Marquis, as his father had saved the late emperor back then. Hence, the title was granted even if Zhang Tianwu did not share the same bloodline with the emperor. The title could even be inherited by descendants from Marquis Zhang's manor. Apparently, the emperor was annoyed with the people of Marquis Zhang's manor lately. Zhang Tianwu was left with no choice but to arrange a marriage between Zhang Gong and the young princess. By doing this, he could keep the foothold of Marquis Zhang's manor, as the emperor was Zhang Tianwu's in-law. However, the young princess had always been playing with Zhang Gong. Simply no one knew why Zhang Gong was kept out of the palace lately. What could Zhang Tianwu do if this continued? Marquis, Why don't you pay a visit to the young princess so you can check out her new playmate? If her playmate is a man, you could secretly kill him. It will not stir up any conflict with His Majesty. If her playmate is a lady, there is nothing to worry about. Yuaner's voice was soft and delicate, her fingers drawing circles on Zhang Tianhui's chest. Hearing this, Zhang Tianhui's face softened. He reached out to stroke Yuaner's face as he laughed. You are right, let me check this out. I want to know who on earth is capable of making the young princess turn her back on Gonger. At the inner court of the palace, a luxuriously dressed young lady was sitting on a rock, staring hard at the vast azure sky. She looked irresistibly adorable. A few servants were standing quietly behind the young lady like statues. Your Highness, a hurried voice broke the silence. Me for extra chapters. The young lady could not help frowning as she looked at the servant who rushed behind her, annoyed. Why are you shouting? Your Highness, young Marquis Zhang is here again. The young lattice calm face changed after hearing the name. Why is he here again? Get him out of here. I hate him. Had it not been for the emperor not allowing the princess to treat Zheng Gong rudely, she would have thrown Zheng Gong out each time he stepped into the palace. It seemed that the more the princess held herself back, the more intense things went. This bastard treats me so flippantly, but ironically, I am supposed to marry him? I will never marry that bastard. At your command, Your Highness. The servant paid her respect to the princess and walked out. The princess got up and stretched her body lazily. Seeing a lady coming her way from afar, her eyes lit up. She walked over with a bright smile on her face. Chapter 1041. 1 year 6-inch Gu Yi, you are late this time. Gu Yi raised her eyes only to see young Princess Yulan running up to her. The young princess' eyes were glistening with light. They were even more dazzling than the stars sparkling in the sky. Nevertheless, Gu Yi loved Feng Ruking's deep eyes. The young princess smiled radiantly. 2 little dimples could be seen plastered on her fair and delicate face. She looked irresistibly lovely. Still, Gu Yi loved Feng Ruking's eyes that curved into crescent moons when she smiled. The young princess was full of life. She was so delicate, just like a tiny little flower. However, Gu Yi loved Feng Ruking's formidable and domineering demeanor. Both Yulan and Feng Ruqing were princesses, but they were so different. When will I leave this annoying place? I want to bury my head in Shaoqing's warm embrace. Gu Yi felt a sudden urge to cry and heaved a soft sigh. I truly have no idea when I will leave this place. The people here are crazy. They have lost their minds. Here, the spirit beasts were no different than sitting ducks. The people here had made the spirit beasts a living target and shot arrows at them just for fun. Startled, Yulan went pale and stared dazedly at Gu Yi. She hesitated for a while, but soon she took Gu Yi's hand and pulled her aside. The servants were quite far from Gu Yi and Yulan. Hence, no one had heard Gu Yi's words. Do you really want to leave? Yulan raised her head and stared solemnly at Gu Yi. The eldest prince had always been vicious. Yulan was more afraid of the eldest prince than the emperor. Gu Yi was brought into the palace by the eldest prince. It just so happened that Yulan had met Gu Yi in the eldest prince's chamber, and they had hit it off right from the first time they met. However, if Yulan helped Gu Yi leave the palace, the eldest prince would surely kill Yulan. I am not here on my own will. I was seized and brought into this place. This place is like a prison. I can hardly breathe. Moreover, I can't see Shaoqing. Gu Yi had escaped a few times, but all in vain. Although that person did not punish her, she was being monitored even more closely now. She was not even allowed to step out of the back garden. Gu Yi simply had no idea if she could see Feng Ruqing for the rest of her life. Yulan, please don't tell your brother that I want to leave. Although he knows this, whenever I grab the chance, I will leave. I don't belong here. I will help you. Yulan bit her lower lip. Stunned, Gu Yi smiled wryly and shook her head. Whenever Gu Yi thought of Feng Ruqing, she could not help grumbling. She had never thought of getting any help from the people of Tianyue Kingdom. Me for extra chapters. After all, this kingdom belonged to the eldest prince. There is no need. If my father and Xiaoqing know this, they will come to my rescue. I am waiting for them. Yulan held onto Gui's hand tightly. No, if you don't want to marry him, you must leave as soon as possible. Yesterday, I heard my eldest brother told my father that he wants to make you his consort, and my father has agreed. Are you sure? Hearing this, Gui's heart trembled and her voice quivered. Yes, Yulan said resolutely. Gui burst into tears like a dull booby. No way. I want to marry Xiaoqing. If worst comes to worst, I would rather be Xiaoqing's second aunt than marrying this bastard. I know how painful it is to marry someone you don't love. Yulan shook her head with a wry smile. Even if you haven't told me this, I am going to tell you something. My mother was my father's dearest consort. However, my mother did not love my father. She was forced to leave the man she loved to be married to my father. My mother ended up collapsing into a dreary depression before she eventually died. It is so heartbreaking to get married to someone you don't love. Gui, I want to help you. Chapter 1042. Gui is snappy-eye. Hearing this, Gui's heart sank. Sure enough, Gui wanted to leave this place, but she did not want to put Yulan into trouble. After pondering for a while, Gui shook her head. Yulan, I will find my own way out. Don't tell him about this, although he already knows this. I told you that I will help you. I will keep my words. I am his sister. He can't do anything to me. You are my friend. I can't bear to see you suffer, Yulan said with smiling eyes. Gui's heart skipped a beat. She looked up at the young lady before her as she said earnestly, Yulan, honestly, I have never considered you to be my good friend before this. Yulan was rendered speechless. The truth in Gui's words stung. I got close to you because you are a princess. The person I love is also a princess. Now, I have found the similarity between both of you. Fierce loyalty. Gui patted Yulan's shoulder and continued saying. Yulan's hand stroked her chest. Gui's words pricked even deeper into Yulan's heart. Yulan had always been treating Gui her good friend, but it turned out that Yulan was merely a backup. Don't worry. If there is a chance, I will come back together with her. I know you don't like this place and have always wanted to get out of here. Xiaoqing is really something. She can get you out of here. Hearing this, Yulan's eyes lit up, curving into a crescent moon as she broke into a bright smile. All right, I will wait for you to come back. However, my eldest brother has been around in the palace a lot lately. When he goes out, I will get a chance to take you out of here. Okay. Gui nodded solemnly. At this moment, she really saw Yulan as her friend, not a backup. Just as Yulan wanted to say something, Gui tugged at Yulan's hand. Stunned, Yulan raised her head only to see Zheng Tuanwu walking toward them from not far away. With a smiling face, he walked toward them with both hands on his back. He was so different from his domineering and vicious look in the marquis manner. Currently, he looked like a wolf in sheep's clothing, irritating. Your Highness, I heard that you have had some conflicts with Gonger recently. Has Gonger done anything wrong and offended you? Marquis Zheng must have misunderstood me. I am not feeling well. Hence, I didn't want to see anyone these few days. Yulan's face changed as she said blandly. A glimmer of light flashed in Zheng Tuanwu's eyes. He subconsciously glanced at Gui, who was standing aside. Your Highness looks ruddy and healthy. You don't seem to have any health issues. Moreover, you said that you don't want to meet anyone. You are meeting this lady, aren't you? Me for extra chapters. Hearing this, a burning rage swept over Gui. How dare this bastard humiliate her? When Gui was still in Tianshan Manor, simply no one dared to say that she was not a human. Marquis Zheng, is an honorable guest that my eldest brother has brought back to the palace. She is one of us. I believe that you are in no position to say anything about her, Yulan said nonchalantly before Gui could explode in anger. Currently, vigor and delicate trickled out of Yulan. Calm and elegance took its place. Your Highness, I didn't mean to do that. Gonger misses you so badly. So, please. Zhang Tianwu's face darkened. The corner of his lips curved into a smile. Yulan laughed in exasperation. Zhang Tianwu, do you think I am a prostitute from the brothel and would meet whoever comes into the brothel? Why must I meet young Marquis Zhang just because he misses me? Why don't you ask him what he has done to me? Chapter 1043. Gu Yi is snappy. Zhang Tianwu was annoyed, but he did not show any emotion on his face. Your Highness, please calm down. I apologize to you on Gonger's behalf. No matter what Gonger did, he is still young and insensible. Could you please forgive him this time? Zhang Tianwu smiled brightly. I am 1 year younger than him. You want me to forgive him because he is young and ignorant? Marquis Zhang, you have actually thought that young Marquis Zhang is younger than me. Let's go. Don't be bothered about him. Yulan sneered sarcastically. Gu Yi turned her head sideways to glance at Zhang Tianwu. Her lips curved into a disdainful sneer. Seeing the disdain in her eyes, Zhang Tianwu exploded with anger. He narrowed his eyes that were full of murderous intent. This lady must be the Her Highness' new playmate that the guard has mentioned. She is nothing. She looks stunning, but both her strength and talent are inferior. The young princess is a lady. Hence, this lattice stunning face is useless. All I want to know is why the young princess turned her back on Gonger. After leaving together with Yulan, Gu Yi did not go back to her chamber. Instead, she took a stroll in the back garden. She had never felt so constrained before this. This palace was like a cage, and she was like a canary that was not capable of getting out of the cage. Maiden Gu. Gu Yi's face darkened. Someone blocked Gu Yi's way. She looked up at the man who stood before her. How does this fellow know my name? What? Gu Yi asked indignantly. Maiden Gu, Her Highness, Princess Yulan is still young and gullible. Hence, I must give you some advice. The sower of discord will face calamity. Zhang Tianwu forced a smile. Stunned, Gu Yi did not get Zhang Tianwu. He had actually said that Gu Yi was the sower of discord? What had she done? Well, did Zhang Tianwu mean that Gu Yi had sown discord between the eldest prince and Yulan? All she wanted was to leave the palace. She had never done anything to both of them. What do you mean? Maiden Gu knows it very well. I have no idea what my son, Zheng Gong, has done to offend you so much, so that you want to separate Gonger and Yulan. Zhang Tianwu's smile faded slightly. Zheng Gong? Who is that? Dumbfounded, Gu Yi had not regained her senses. Hearing this, Zhang Tianwu could no longer hold back his anger. Me for extra chapters. Maiden Gu, there is no one in Tianyue Kingdom who does not know who my son is. This is such a witless lie. Don't you ever think that you could do whatever you want with the eldest prince behind my back? You can never be the eldest princess consort. You would only be an insignificant concubine. After some time, he will get bored of you. Do you really want to go against me now? Have you ever thought of your future? Gu Yi stared at Zhang Tianwu, disdain trickling out of her eyes as empathy took its place. It turns out that Zhang Tianwu has a screw loose. Gu Yi would not blame him for the things that he had done, as her father told her not to reason with a fool. Naturally, if Gu Shi knew what Gu Yi was thinking right now, he would have cried his heart out. What Gu Shi said did not fit in the current situation. Gu Yi merely heaved a sigh and shook her head. Then, she turned to walk past Zhang Tianwu. Maiden Gu, I will give you a piece of grade 5 spirit herb. Please stay away from Her Highness, Princess Yulan. Zhang Tianwu reached out in an attempt to stop Gu Yi. Chapter 1044. Gu Yi is snappy. Nevertheless, Zhang Tianwu firmly believed that there must be some misunderstandings between Zheng Gong and Gu Yi. Hence, Gu Yi had sown discord between Yulan and Zheng Gong. Subsequently, Yulan distanced herself from Zheng Gong. Gu Yi could not help but stop in her tracks. She could recall the things that had happened the day she left Tianshan Manor. A noble lady had thrown money at a modestly dressed young lady. The noble lady looked down at the young lady condescendingly as she said with a flamboyant and exaggerated tone, "Take this $1,000 worth of notes and stay away from my son." They were $1,000 worth of notes. Gui had never thought that this would happen to her. After all, her father was Gu Shi. However, Gui did not burst with anger. Instead, she was amused. She could not help but laugh. A piece of grade 5 spirit herb is nothing. Back then, when Xiaoqing helped me to lose weight, grade 6 spirit herb was a part of the token of gratitude that I have given her in return. However, if you truly want me to leave, I will tell the eldest prince later that you want me to leave and that it was not my intention. Zhang Tianhua's face darkened a little, but he paid no heed to Gui's words. Grade 6 spirit herb? You have overestimated yourself. Unfortunately, the grade 6 spirit herb is not good enough for me. I regret what I have said. I will tell the eldest prince that you want me to leave, but I will never do so unless you give me 1,000 pieces of grade 8 spirit herbs. I would immediately leave without looking back then. Grade 8 spirit herb. You slut. You are no different than a robber. Although Gui was a gorgeous lady, she was feminine at all. Her overbearing demeanor was annoyed. Maiden Gu, you seem to prefer rough treatment, don't you? No, I don't. Zhang Tianwu could not stay any longer. He was afraid that he could no longer hold back his anger and might just kill Gui. Hence, he took a deep breath. His murderess briefly scanned Gui's face before he turned to leave. Zhang Tianwu stumbled away. His body was trembling. Apparently, he was extremely indignant. He is a marquis, but his emotional intelligence is too low. I have only just said a few words, but he had exploded with anger. If he continued talking to me, he would have died from anger. Gui pouted disdainfully. It was something great indeed. At least Zhang Tianwu would never look for Gui anymore. Thinking of this, Gui broke into tears. She missed Feng Ruqing, Gu Shi, Xiao Yin, and her second uncle so badly. It had been a year. Had they tasked anyone to look for Gui? Were they doing well? Me for extra chapters. In the depth of the forest of spirit beasts, a young lady was sitting with her legs crossed by the pool. A faint beam of sunlight poured over her face. She opened her eyes. She looked calm and serene. It's been a year. Initially, she had wanted to make a breakthrough to advanced Dark Warrior tier. However, she had not made it even after a year of cultivation. It seemed that she was stuck in a cultivation bottleneck where she just could not make a breakthrough. On the contrary, ever since the spirit beasts had stopped drinking the contaminated water and with the help of the sacred water, their strength had improved by leaps and bounds. Even Feng Ruqing was shocked at the speed of the spirit beast's improvement. The most talented wolfhound had even attained tier 6 strength. Perhaps it could even attain tier 7 strength if it was given a chance. Chapter 1045. Gu Yi is snappy IV spirit beasts that had attained tier 7 strength were similar to a human who had attained spirit warrior tier. Hence, the wolfhound was an advanced spirit warrior. More importantly, it was actually a female wolfhound. It's such a pity. If Feng Ruqing could take this wolfhound out of the forest of spirit beasts, this wolfhound might be a perfect match for the snow wolf. After all, dogs and wolves shared a common ancestor a long time ago. The wolfhound threw itself at Feng Ruqing, sticking out its tongue to lick Feng Ruqing's face. Perhaps the wolfhound had been abandoned for years, and it had finally met a master who was treating it so well and with such gentleness. The wolfhound stared at Feng Ruqing with watchful and gentle eyes. "Sit down," Feng Ruqing said calmly. The wolfhound sat upright and wagged its tail like a well-trained dog. It was so cordial and handsome. This dog behaved more like a dog than little Wolfie. The snow wolf was a wolf after all. If not for Feng Ruqing luring it with the divine spirit fruit, it never would have listened to her command like the wolfhound. However, the snow wolf had a special place in Feng Ruqing's heart. The snow wolf was not as smart as the rest of the spirit beasts. Neither was it good at fighting nor escaping. It had always looked so miserable. Hence, Feng Ruching had always been taking special care of the snow wolf. Moreover, the snow wolf was the first spirit beast that Feng Ruching owned. She had even blown a hole in Feng Rushwang's wallet because of the snow wolf. Naturally, the snow wolf had a special place in Feng Ruching's heart, and no other spirit beast could replace it. No matter how sensible and smart the other spirit beasts were, the snow wolf was Feng Ruching's dearest spirit beast. Have the people out there retreat? Feng Ruching raised her brow. The people out there had always wanted to take these spirit beasts away. In order to make the spirit beasts cultivate peacefully, Feng Ruching and the spirit beasts had been hiding in the forest of spirit beast for one whole year. Squeak, squeak. The rabbit squeaked. Mother, the rabbit said that there are still some people wandering out there. However, the eagle that was tasked to send the letter has brought back the news of the other spirit beasts. Someone saw Aunt Gu in Marquis City. Qing Han, who stood next to Feng Ruching, conveyed the rabbit's message to Feng Ruching. As Feng Ruching could not go out to look for Gui, she had tasked the big rabbit to send the eagle to deliver letters to the birds in all the cities of the realm. The eagle was too big and eye-catching. On the contrary, the birds were small and had yet to ascend to spirit beasts. Hence, they could hardly be noticed. That was the reason Feng Ruching had tasked these birds to look for someone. Me for extra chapters. Eagle, send a piece of spirit herb to all the birds that helped me. This spirit herb could help them in cultivation, and they could ascend to spirit beasts sooner. In the ancient Huaxia, there were both ordinary snakes and spirit snakes. Similarly, in Songyu mainland, there was no lack of spirit beasts, but there were more animals that were not capable of ascending to spirit beasts. The eagle was overjoyed. It screamed and circled around Feng Ruching for a while. Later on, will you all leave the forest of spirit beasts together with me? Feng Ruching stroked her head with a smile on her face. All the spirit beasts were dumbstruck by Feng Ruching's remark. Even the eagle stopped in its track. The whole forest of spirit beasts sank into silence. These spirit beasts had never left the forest of spirit beasts before. This was their home. Even if their home was full of danger, it was far safer than the world out there. However, as of now, the spirit beasts raised their heads to look at Feng Ruching's face. A look of absolute determination settled upon their faces. Chapter 1046. Leaving the beast forest naturally, the spirit beasts were willing to leave their home if Feng Ruching was their master and would never leave her after that. Mother, when will Brother Fu Chen wake up? Qing Han bit her lower lip. She looked a little dejected. Back then, Qing Han had always felt that Fu Chun was annoying when he was around. However, Fu Chun had been sleeping for so long. As of now, Qing Han missed him so badly. Feng Ruching lowered her eyes. The corner of her lips curved into a faint smile. He will wake up soon. I could feel it. I wonder how strong Fu Chun will be when he wakes up. Qing Han's strength had greatly improved and was as strong as an immortal warrior's, even though she had only slept for a short while. Simply no one knew how strong Fu Chun could be when he was awake. Really? Mother, I think Brother Fu Chun is getting taller. When he is awake, will he be a dwarf no more, unlike me? Qing Han broke into laughter. Her eyes curved into crescent moons. She looked extremely adorable. Well, I'm not sure. You are still young. When you grow up, you will surely be taller. Oh. Qing Han raised her head and stared dazedly at Feng Ruching's face. She did not seem to understand Feng Ruching's words. When will I be as tall as Mother? Arf, arf. The wolfhound barked as it wagged its tail and circled around Qing Han. Awang, let's go. Qing Han smiled as she waved her hand. Feng Ruching was the one who had set up the formation in the forest of spirit beasts. Naturally, she knew how to break it. Hence, they walked smoothly through the forest. Outside the forest of spirit beasts, there was a group of guards wandering dejectedly outside the forest of spirit beasts. An ordinary-looking middle-aged man with sallow skin and a black mole on his forehead could be seen leading the group. He looked like someone who had overindulged in sexual intercourse. Indeed, he looked extremely imposing wearing the armor. However, at the same time, he looked like someone who sought power by riding on the back of the tiger. You are a bunch of fools. You can't even get into the forest until now. Go and find a way to get into the forest now. I don't believe that I can't get in. The man waved the long whip in his hand and cracked it forcefully at the guard who stood near him. The whip made contact with and ripped off the skin of the guard's back, leaving traces of blood. It was a brutal whip strike. However, simply no one dared to make a sound seeing the guard being tortured. Me for extra chapters. The guards had no choice. The man's sister was Zhang Tianwei's dearest consort. This man was highly influential and powerful. Hence, the guard did not dare to mess with him. Hurry up. If you all can't find it, I will skin you all alive. Mu Yu waved the whip once again as he snarled. The guards left immediately. They were too afraid to stay there any longer. Currently, there was only a squad of guards left on the spot to protect him. Mu Yu got off the horse and sat down on the ground nearby, feeling carefree. He then took out a pot of wine and drank from it. It was a pity that he only had a pot of wine. Without a gorgeous lady by his side, it was such a waste. Just as Mu Yu was about to put down the wine pot, a gorgeous silhouette came into sight from the hills of the forest of the spirit beasts. As he did not hold onto the wine pot tightly, the wine pot slid through his fingers and fell to the ground. His eyes were fixed upon the beautiful lady who was slowly walking out of the forest. He could not help but gulp. He was smitten with the lady. She is so stunning. There is actually such a beautiful lady in the forest of the spirit beasts. The lady was way too gorgeous. She looked even more stunning than his pretty sister. Chapter 1047. Leaving the beast forest even the little maiden next to her was exquisitely beautiful. When the little maiden had grown up, her beauty could bring the whole city to their knees. What are you doing here? Don't you see the beauty ahead of you? Go and get her. Mu Yu slapped the guard across his head. It must be wonderful to be with such a gorgeous lady. Rubbing his palms together, Mu Yu stared at the lady with a lecherous gaze. A lustful smile could be seen plastered on his face. He could even foresee the lady moaning exaggeratedly, being pinned down under his body. Just as the guard wanted to make a move, his body suddenly stiffened as he stood rooted to the ground. The sun was burning like fire. The lady in the red robe was even more dazzling than the sun. Her face was indescribably stunning. One could hardly forget her even with just a glance. A little maiden could be seen riding on the wolfhound that walked next to the lady. It was such a warm and harmonious sight. Suddenly, countless spirit beasts strode out of the forest, walked after the lady. Wolves, tigers, leopards, and a big rabbit. It was a wide variety of spirit beasts behind the lady, as if a huge group of bodyguards. Each of them was bigger and stronger than the petite lady who walked before them. The lady was as if a tiny little fish leading a big group of giant sharks. Stunned, all the guards stood rooted on the spot, their faces stiffened. Mu Yu too was startled. He looked blankly at the lady before him. He could not help glancing at the spirit beasts behind her. Wait, why do these spirit beasts look so familiar? Standing dazed for a while, Mu Yu had finally regained his focus. A glimmer of vicious light flashed in his eyes. Those spirit beasts belong to the Marquis Manor. However, they are out here following a lady? Stop them! Mu Yu snarled. The guard nearly burst into tears. You have just sent so many people out of here, and there are only a few of us left. Do you really think we can defeat so many spirit beasts? These spirit beasts will bite us to death. Seeing the guard was still standing unmovingly, Mu Yu gave the guard a kick and sent him forward. Go now. The guard walked fearfully toward Feng Ruching. His face was ghastly pale. Under the tree, just as Feng Ruching walked out of the forest of spirit beasts, a guard in armor stopped her. Back off. The lattice face was nonchalant. Me for extra chapters. Bang. Before the guard could say a word, he was dealt a blow on his chest, sending him flying away and crashing pathetically to the ground. The guard spat out a mouthful of blood and did not manage to get up after that. Mu Yu's face darkened. He got up and sized Feng Ruching up with a lecherous gaze. The corner of his lips curved into a sinister sneer. Maiden, these spirit beasts belong to the Marquis Manor. Where are you taking them to? Feng Ruching glanced at Muyu, who was walking up to her from not far away, and then turned to look at the spirit beasts. Is that so? All the spirit beasts shook their heads simultaneously, as if they were trained to do this before. Maiden, the forest of the spirit beasts belongs to the Marquis Manor. Naturally, the same goes for the spirit beasts within the forest. However, Muyu stroked his chin as he sneered. If you are willing to be my concubine, I could give you one of them. However, you must not take all of them away. These are the Marquis spirit beasts. He would never give them to anyone. Chapter 1048. Leaving the beast forest, the Marquis was so enthralled by Yuan'er. Even though this lady looked beautiful, with her character, the Marquis would never like her. The prince would never be generous toward the people he disliked. Naturally, he would not give her the spirit beasts. Mother, little Qing Han puffed her cheeks, her eyes innocent and without evil, looking absolutely harmless. Who is he? Why he is coming to snatch away Wang and the rest? Wang is obviously our family's dog. The hunting dog nodded vigorously. Exactly. It was already its new owner's dog. It was no longer related to other people. Muyu looked at little Qing Han and licked the corner of his lips. Of course, if you are willing to give your daughter to me too, I can let you choose and bring away one spirit beast. Boom. Suddenly, a kick conjuring a hurricane hit Muyu's body, causing him to fly away. He coughed and fell to the ground, utterly wretched. Immediately, another gust of wind blew, and by the time he had lifted his head, he found that the maiden's figure was already floating before him like a ghost. She rested her leg on Muyu's chest and smiled cordially. But when Muyu saw her smile, it looked devilish, causing his whole body to go cold and tremble uncontrollably. All the guards pulled out their swords, but before they could rush forward, the spirit beasts were already pouncing on them, pinning them down to the ground and growling threateningly. What did you say earlier on? I didn't hear it. Feng Ruching lowered her head while smiling. The smile did not quite reach her eyes, causing people to tremble. Oh, that's right. You wanted me to sell my daughter? Not knowing why, Muyu's face paled and his gaze flustered when he saw Feng Ruching's expression. He personally did not have high-level cultivation, but had always been relying on Marquis Manor's strength to throw his weight around. On this land, nobody who dared to cross his path indeed. This time, he had come to the beast forest for his personal gain. He just wanted to have a taste of what it was like to kill a spirit beast. That was why he had offered to bring people to this place. He had never thought that not only was he unable to kill a spirit beast, but he had also attracted a devil. What do you want to do? I am Marquis Zheng's brother-in-law. Our Marquis Manor's skilled masters are all nearby. If you dare to touch me, Marquis Zheng will not let you off so easily. He will cut your body into 1,000 pieces and destroy your whole family. Feng Ruching's lips lifted into a smile, and she slowly retracted her leg. Me for extra chapters. Muyu sighed a breath of relief. It seemed like the name of the prince was pretty useful. At least, it had caused this woman to be afraid. However, in the next moment, the maiden's ruthless voice thundered. If all of you want to take revenge, come and do it yourselves. The harm these people have brought you should be personally returned to them. Under the sun, a light breeze gently blew at the maiden's sleeves, her face warm and kind under the gentle light of the sun. Her words were like a light, lighting up the hearts of the spirit beasts. The eyes of the spirit beasts were bright. Under the influence of Feng Ruching's words, all the spirit beasts pounced forward, overwhelming the screaming Muyu. One could no longer see his face that was filled with fear and panic. Just a stone throw away, the skilled masters from Marquis Manor who had just arrived personally witnessed Muyu losing his breath under the claws and fangs of the spirit beasts. Their faces turned pale, trembling in shock. Earlier on, Muyu had ordered them to search for an entrance into the beast forest. So, many people had left, leaving behind only a few skilled masters to protect him. However, Those skilled masters were simply not the opponents of the spirit beasts. Chapter 1049. Leaving the beast forest 4-inch this. What should we do? Lord Mu is dead. Should we go back and report it? Report what? We have failed to protect Lord Mu. The Marquis loves Lady Yuan so much. For sure we will pay with our lives. So, we better quickly run away. Managing to escape for 1 day more is an additional day to stay alive. Once we go back, we will have no way of coming back out again. Ever since Lady Yuan has entered the manor, all the loyal ministers in the Marquis Manor have been sentenced to death due to slander. Even the Marchioness has died just because she had given Lady Yuan a slap. Do you think we still have any reason to stay in this kind of place? Everyone looked at each other and came to a conclusion in their hearts. They left in a rush without being bothered about Muyu. Marquis City. In Marquis Zhang's manor, a young butler rushed in with his forehead covered in sweat and eyes darting around in anxiousness. Lady Yuan, Lady Yuan, this is bad. Something has happened to Lord Muyu. In the eastern courtyard, Lady Yuan was lounging on her side, with the warm sun shining on her body. 2 servants holding fans stood on each of her sides, gently fanning her. When she heard the commotion coming from nearby, Lady Yuan looked up and saw the little butler running in, causing her to frown. Her personal servant immediately saw that she was annoyed, so she stood up and shouted, "Can't you see that the lady is resting? How huge is that matter that you are kicking up such a fuss?" The little butler was panting and covered in sweat. Lady Yuan, Lord Mu has passed away. Lady Yuan was holding a cup of water that a servant had brought to her. Hearing that after taking a sip from the cup, her hand trembled from shock, causing the cup to slip and fall to the floor. Her face paled. Her eyes contained surprise and sorrow. Her body swayed, and it was a good thing that the servant behind her had caught her. It was only then that she had managed to stabilize her body. What did you say just now? Lady Yuan, Lord Mu was hurt in the beast forest. Lady Yuan's face turned white. She lightly rubbed her forehead, shaking her head in disbelief. No, I don't believe it. How could elder brother be dead? Absolutely impossible. You are all lying to me. It must be. Her face was covered in tears. The servants held her body up, afraid that she would not be able to take it and collapse. Madam, Lord Mu has disappeared in the beast forest some time back. The Marquis sent men to look for him, but they ended up bringing back a body. My lady, do you want to take a last look? Lady Yuan closed her eyes in agony, her body swaying as if she would fall any moment. There is no need for that. I do not wish to take a look. All of you should just leave. I want to rest properly for a bit. Obeying her order, the servants and little butler left. Only Lady Yuan was left in the whole eastern courtyard. Me for extra chapters. After all the people had left, her tears vanished too. Her lips curled into a sneer. Dead. He's finally dead. Ha ha ha. Sir Yi, I have avenged you. Sunlight shone upon Lady Yuan's beautiful face, yet her smile was desolate. Sir Yi, I have betrayed you and given up on our relationship. Now, all I can do is to let those who have harmed you accompany you in hell. Muyu is finally dead, and he died from his own doing. From now on, the only place I want to overturn would be Marquis Zhang's manor. I will make him lose everything he has, betrayed by all and left behind by his loved ones. You honor. A familiar voice called out from nearby. Lady Yuan put away all her anger and hatred. Her tears, once again, flowed down her face, making her look pitiful and seemingly bearing great pain. Marquis. Chapter 1050. Escape Yuaner. This Marquis is aware of everything. Zhang Tianwu stopped and looked at Lady Yuan's pitiful figure. Fury quickly filled his heart, and as he spoke with a sharp glare, "Guards, go and investigate immediately who was it that has caused Mu Ye's death. No matter who it is, you absolutely cannot let him off." Lady Yuan sniffled and leaned against Zhang Tianhui's chest. Her charming face was like a vixen's, but because of the tears that covered her face, she looked even more endearing. Marquis, this matter was obviously supposed to be handled by housekeeper Tian Qi. Why did he make elder brother go? Housekeeper Tian Qi was the one who has approached elder brother. Elder brother had willingly gone to the beast forest. I don't know what had happened exactly, but I have no parents and only an elder brother. Without him, how am I going to survive? Lady Yuan's breathing seemed erratic and her hand was placed on her chest. She was panting after every sentence and she was sobbing, her face pale. Zhang Tianhui's face was cold as he shouted, "Guards, put Tian Qi into the prison." Marquis. Everyone's face paled in surprise and they quickly kneeled down and cried out hoarsely, "Marquis." Housekeeper Tian Qi has always been loyal to Marquis. He would never plot against Lord Mu. Please investigate clearly. I do not care whether or not he has had intentions to plot against Muyu. If killing him would make Yuan happy, then his life is worth it. These people in the Marquis Manor had always been loyal to a fault toward Zhang Tianwu. But now, seeing that he had been ensnared by a woman, their eyes subconsciously turned red as they glared at Lady Yuan fiercely in anger. First was the Marchioness, then the Marchioness' elder brother. After that was the housekeeper, and now even housekeeper Tian Qi. It was unknown how many loyal subjects of the Marquis Manor were lost because of this woman. This woman was a vixen who had destroyed countries and brought harm to the citizens. She had charmed the Marquis into a mess and was now causing the death of the Marquis Manor's loyal subjects without a qualm. Marquis, this servant knows that anything I say will be useless, but I hope that you will listen to my last words of advice. Don't listen to this vixen's lies anymore. Otherwise, the Marquis Manor will surely perish. Ha ha ha. Saying this bit, the man stood up and determinedly committed suicide by smashing his own head against a rock nearby. Fresh blood oozed from his brain, spilling onto the floor. Zhang Tianwu did not even glance at him. He simply waved his hand and complained, "Drag him out to the mass grave post." Yuan is so beautiful and gentle. How would it be possible for her to possess a venomous and murderous heart? All who slander her deserve to die. Lady Yuan buried her head in Zhang Tianhui's embrace, her body trembling, her hand tightly clenched into a fist, fingers digging into the palm of her hands. These few people's death was no big deal. Sir Yes family of over 500 people, all dead. In a single night, the luxurious manor had turned into ashes, burnt to the ground. Therefore, it did not matter how many people died in the Marquis Manor. She would never feel guilty, because these people, they all deserved death. Me for extra chapters. In jail, a man's hands were nailed to the wall. His lips cracked most likely because he had not had water in a long time. Creak. The jail door was pushed open and a beauty dressed in a long green dress entered. This beauty was extremely beautiful. There was a beauty mark on her forehead, making her look even more beautiful, enough to destroy countries and devastate citizens. The man saw the beauty entering with the help of the little light that spilled in through the open door. His heart leaped with joy as he spoke with a dry voice, "Lady Yuan, I did not harm Lord Mu. I really didn't harm him." The door of the jail then locked again. Chapter 1051. Escape. Lady Yuan slowly walked toward Tian Qi. Her steps were slow but heavy, each step pounding into Tian Qi's heart. Tian Qi, housekeeper Tian. Lady Yuan picked up a knife from the table and walked to the side of Tian Qi's body. She violently stabbed the knife into Tian Qi's arm. Severe pain caused Tian Qi's body to twitch. "Lady Yuan, I really didn't do it. You must believe in me. Of course I know it wasn't you who has caused my brother's death." Lady Yuan's lips curled upward. "But, so what? You." Tian Qi's eyes widened. She knew. But why? "Tian Qi, do you still remember the Yu family?" The bowtie's voice was very soft, but it caused Tian Qi's heart to tremble. "You? The Yu family? Gong City's Yu family? It seems like you have yet to forget them. One year, you had led many soldiers to flatten the whole Yu family, robbing and stealing. If all of you had only robbed and left, perhaps then, I would still let it pass. But why did you all have to kill? Annihilate the whole Yu family? Lady Yuan's eyes were red with anger. She hated Marquis Zheng's manor, hated everyone in it. Everyone deserved to die. Every single one. You. Tianqi's voice was laced with fear. What is your relationship with the Yu family? Lady Yuan stabbed at Tianqi's arm again. The Yu family's Yu Yi was the man I loved the most in this lifetime. It was all of you who had killed him and the whole Yu family. Tianqi's eyes were suddenly filled with panic. He finally understood why Lady Yuan had intentionally framed those loyal subjects after entering the Marquis manor. All of this was for revenge. No, it wasn't me. It was the Marquis and Marchioness. They said that there was a spirit beast who could transform into a human in the Yu family and had ordered us to snatch it. I was just following orders. Lady Yuan snickered. The Marchioness is dead. The lackeys of the Marquis have also been removed one by one. After this, it would be the Marquis' turn, followed by the young Earl. I will never let a single person of the Marquis manor off. Me for extra chapters. Tianqi's was losing more and more blood. His face grew weaker, and his panic-stricken eyes looked at the beauty in front of him, his heart cold. He understood now. Lady Yuan would never let him off. Naturally, I know you would never cause Mu Ye's death. If someone else has really killed him, it would be a huge help to me. Lady Yuan's gaze contained hatred. Young Master Yi and I loved each other. Besides my elder brother, no one knew. However, in order to obtain greater power, he has offered me to Zheng Tianwu. But he was afraid that I would not forget Sir Yi, and even more afraid that Zheng Tianwu would know my pa. So, he betrayed Sir Yi, causing his death. Ha ha ha. Every single moment, I wish that he hadn't died. But I understand what kind of woman Zheng Tianwu likes, so I pretend to be that woman in front of him, making him fall deeply in love with me. He would betray everyone and leave his loved ones for me. How could I let everything go to waste? Furthermore, if I have wanted to frame Mu Yu, and he speaks about my past with Sir Yi before he dies, how could I still avenge Sir Yi? Fortunately, he has died out there. Nobody else knows about my relationship with Sir Yi. From the moment the Yu family ceased to exist, the seed of hatred had been growing in her heart, and it had now grown into a towering tree. There was nothing she cared about anymore in this life. Giving herself to Zheng Tianwu was solely encouraged by her heart's desire for revenge. Tianqi panicked badly. This woman was crazy, completely insane. Guards, someone come quick. Lady Yuan, she... Chapter 1052. Escape I splat. The knife was stabbed into Tianqi's heart. Tianqi's body froze and his head slowly tilted downward, staring at the knife stuck in his heart as blood flowed from the corners of his mouth. Everything that he wanted to say was stuck in his throat. In the end, his head dropped to the side and he died. The jail door was once again opened. Two guards rushed over and put their fists to palms in greeting. Madam, we heard housekeeper Tianqi's voice. Are you all right? Lady Yuan smiled sadly. She turned around and left the prison. Sir Yi, did you see it? The enemies who had harmed you are dying by my hand, one by one. Don't worry. Very soon I will kill everyone, avenging the Yu family's 500 over people. After leaving the jail, Lady Yuan's face color recovered a little. From afar, she could see Zheng Tianwu rushing toward her. Earlier on in the jail, she had used up all her strength and at the moment, her body had lost all strength as she crumbled to the floor. You honor. Zheng Tianwu was frightened as he quickly went to hold Lady Yuan up. As he looked on anxiously, he ordered, quickly get the doctor here. You honor. Wake up. Don't scare me. The dark yellow sky was reflecting Zheng Tianwu's anxious face. His eyes were filled with tension. Marquis. In the east room, the incense was burning. Zheng Tianwu sat next to the bed, clutching Lady Yuan's hand tightly. Besides worry, His eyes carried no other emotions. Housekeeper Tianqi was killed by the lady. The person behind him respectfully reported. Zhang Tianwu just grunted an acknowledgement and no longer responded. The guard hesitated for a moment. Housekeeper Tianqi is not the kind of person who would have harmed Lord Mu. Zhang Tianwu lowered his eyes. I don't care whether Tianqi had really intended to harm Mu Yu or not. However, Yuaner wanted to kill him, then let his despicable life be offered to Yuaner. Nobody should question that. The guard's body trembled. He had already noticed Zhang Tianwu's eyes turning dark, so he quickly left with his head bowed. Yes, Marquis. Leave. I will be here to accompany Yuaner until she wakes up. Zhang Tianwu waved his hand, then quickly turned his attention to Lady Yuan. His eyes were full of tenderness and willingness to spoil her. That was something that was previously not there. In this life, he had killed many living beings. Regardless of whether it was a beast's life or a human's life, none of this mattered to him. Me for extra chapters. Everyone was just like an ant. There was no need for him to care. But after he had met Yuaner, he finally had someone he cared about. He would not allow anyone to accuse her. Whatever she said, he would believe it. It did not matter if she was something bad that would bring calamity to the country and suffering to the citizens. Nor did it matter if she was a vixen in this story. None of it mattered to him. He just wanted to be by her side. Mark. At this moment, a guard rushed over and whispered into Zhang Tianwu's ear. Zhang Tianwu's eyes sunk. A hint of coldness flashed in his eyes. Is what you have said true? Every sentence I have heard is true. It was overheard by a palace girl belonging to the little princess. Good. Very good. Come with me. I want to enter the palace to meet the eldest prince. At night, the sky was dark and the crescent moon was hidden behind the clouds. Inside the palace walls, two petite figures carefully avoided all the imperial guards, moving forward while dodging and hiding. Yulan, the secret passage you have talked about, does it really exist? Of course it's real. Yulan happily stroked her chin. When I was a child, Father Emperor did not let me out, so I used to secretly sneak out through this secret passage. I have inquired about something. Eldest imperial brother has left for an appointment tonight. He is not in the palace. It is the best time for us to escape. Chapter 1053. Escape. IV Gu Yi believed only half of it, but eventually, she still decided to believe in Yulan this one time. Although she had always felt that this girl, Yulan, was without ill intentions, she was still somewhat unreliable. Exactly the same as Tang Yi. We've arrived. Yulan grinned and turned her head. This is my secret passage. Luckily, it is dark tonight. It is easier for us to carry out our tasks. I don't know when we'll be able to meet again after this. Goodbye. Before the last two words were spoken, suddenly numerous torches appeared in front of them, lighting up the darkness. Gu Yi turned her head around, stiffly. Yulan, didn't you say that nobody knows of this secret passage? Isn't tonight supposed to be very safe? Yulan's smile froze and her face looked like she was going to cry. I don't know. I don't know anything. In front of them were a few guards. Two people walked toward them. One person's face was quite handsome but gloomy, causing people to feel uncomfortable. The other man was older, grinning like a vicious tiger. His eyes looked sinister. Zhang Tianwu. Yulan's face darkened. Her fists tightly clenched. It must have been this person who had gotten the information from God knows where, and went to tell eldest imperial brother the secret. This bastard deserved to die. Gui, Yulan. Where are you all intending to go? The man who was at the forefront had incredibly cold eyes. His handsome face was filled with murderous intent. Yulan's heart sank. Her hand secretly rested on the brick wall behind her as she pressed hard on it, causing a secret passage to appear before everybody's eyes. Perhaps the eldest prince knew what Yulan wanted to do then, as he rushed toward Yulan in the blink of an eye. However, Yulan was still a step faster. She reached out and pushed Gu Yi into the secret passage. After that, she pressed hard once again, and the brick wall returned to its normal appearance. The moment the eldest prince appeared before her, Yulan had already used her fist to smash into the mechanism that was not obvious on the brick wall. Thus, the mechanism was wrecked. This mechanism blended in well with the stone walls, so it was usually hardly noticeable. However, after Yulan's hit, a dent had appeared on the brick wall, and the original mechanism was no more. Boom! The eldest prince's fist landed on Yulan's chest, causing her to fly away. She spewed a mouthful of blood as her face turned pale. Me for extra chapters. Yulan. The eldest prince's fist shook. His eyes lit up with rage. Do you know what you are doing? Yulan rubbed the corners of her mouth and stood up. Her face broke into a sneer. Eldest imperial brother, she is not willing to be your woman. Why do you keep insisting on it? The vein on the eldest prince's forehead was throbbing. In a fit of anger, he mercilessly strangled Yulan's neck. This whole piece of land belongs to the royal family. I like her. Sooner or later she will be my woman. I have already given her sufficient time and respect. I did not force her, but you have actually gone and let her go. Did you think that if you have let her go that I wouldn't be able to find her? Let me tell you, whoever I want, I will get. The next time she is back, even if she is unwilling, I will make her my woman. Yulan laughed in disdain. Before this, Father Emperor had forced Mother Consort into the palace. And now, eldest imperial brother also intends to do the same. Are all men so unyielding? If that was the case in this life, she, Yulan, would never marry anyone. None of the men was good. Eldest prince, when Zhang Tianwu saw that it was about time, he grinned and moved forward. Calm down a little. Princess Yulan is still your sister. If she has done something wrong, just giving her a little punishment will do the trick. Why take her life? She is just young, and she doesn't understand. She has been manipulated. Furthermore, if you kill her, it would be hard to explain to His Majesty. Chapter 1054. Mu Qingyin was wounded. The eldest prince's face was cold. The sword in his hand was already pointing at Yulan, and his eyes were filled with anger. He did not care about Zhang Tianwu, who was standing behind him when he spoke coldly. Yulan, today, no matter what your relationship with me is, you have done wrong. You will need to pay the price. Yulan's heart trembled, but still stubbornly lifted her head and looked at the eldest prince without a shred of fear. Marquis Zhang. The eldest prince's lips lifted into a cold smile. I agree to your request. Later, I will seek for Father Emperor to propose for Yulan to marry into the Zhang Marquis manor. Father Emperor had already intended to get rid of this Zhang Marquis manor. If Yulan were to marry into that family, her ending would definitely be tragic. Therefore, why not agree with Zhang Tianwu as to whether Father Emperor would be willing or not? Once the rice was cooked, for the sake of the imperial family's dignity, Father Emperor would have to abandon Yulan. Come, bring Yulan away and lock her up. Yes, eldest prince. In Tianyu Kingdom, the eldest prince always hid the truth from the masses and was incredibly powerful. Therefore, when compared to him, this Princess Yulan was obviously insignificant. She did not resist and also understood that resisting was pointless. She slowly stood up, her eyes scanning the eldest prince's figure with sarcasm before following the guards. Slowly disappearing into the night. Zhang Tianwu's eyes looked sinister. He looked in the direction in which Yulan had left and looked at the tightly shut secret room, eyes glinting darkly. In the secret passage, Gu Yi's fist slammed hard onto the wall. Her knuckles covered in blood as tears streamed down her face. Remorse and sadness filled her. In the end, she got tired and lay down on the floor, crying until she could hardly breathe. After crying for some time, she slowly picked herself up and wiped the tears off of her face, turned around, and walked toward the end of the secret passage. The secret passage led to a forest outside the palace. Originally it was dark, but the moment she stepped out, numerous torches lit up, encompassing the whole night sky. Walking in front of her was a man whose hands were behind his back. He grinned and looked down at Gu Yi when she appeared. Young Lady Gu, where do you think you are going? Gu Yi's heart sank as she clenched her fists tightly. Zhang Tianwu. He already knew about the secret passage beforehand and was already waiting for her here. Me for extra chapters. Young Lady Gu, you have just Princess Yulan in trouble, and now you want to leave? Zhang Tianwu laughed loudly. His laughter sounded gloomy. Oh, that's right. The eldest prince is still looking for you everywhere. Young Lady Gu, why don't you follow me back? Gu Yi's eyes sank. Dream on. She needed to leave this place. Only by leaving this place would she have any hope. Ha ha ha. Actually, young Lady Gu is overthinking. How could I possibly bring you back to eldest prince? If you were to return to his side, how would I have a chance to kill you? I will never forget how you have insulted me in the palace that day. Back then, we were in the palace. So, I could not touch you. Now, we are outside the palace. Even if you died, nobody would know. Zhang Tianwu raised his hand high and slowly brought it back down. Seeing Zhang Tianwu's gesture of order, his guards from the Marquis Manor who were behind him took out their weapons. In an instant, everyone was facing Gu Yi. Facing the people before her, Gu Yi was no longer afraid. She released her clenched fists and laughed a little. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.